The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. After Jesus left the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon. Simon's mother-in-law was afflicted with a severe fever, and they interceded with him about her. He stood over her, rebuked the fever, and it left her. She got up immediately and waited on them. At sunset, all who had people sick with various diseases brought them to Jesus. He laid his hands on each of them and cured them. The demons also came out from many, shouting, "You are the Son of God." But he rebuked them and did not allow them to speak, because they knew that he was the Messiah. At daybreak, Jesus left and went to a deserted place. The crowds were looking for him, and when they came to him, they tried to prevent him from leaving them. But he said to them, "To other towns also I must proclaim the good news of the kingdom of God, because for this purpose I have been sent." And he was preaching in the synagogues of Judea. This is the good news of our salvation. In this part of the Gospel of St. Luke, after he has told us in the first 2 chapters about Jesus' early life, the joyful mysteries of the Rosary, the Annunciation to Our Lady, her visitation, the birth of Jesus at Bethlehem, and then the offering of Jesus by Mary in the temple, and then at the age of 12, the finding of Jesus in the temple by Mother Mary and his foster father Joseph. St. Luke begins to tell about the public ministry of Jesus. It was a very hectic time, because we have to realize that at that time there was not medical services, there wasn't pharmacies, there were no clinics, and medicine was at a primitive state, and therefore many diseases did not have cures, and people died when they got infections and other types of disease for which there was no remedy. And so when somebody came on the scene who was a prophet, powerful in word and deed, they flocked to him as salvation. He was therefore what we would call today a sympathetic peace bringer. He shows himself during his public ministry to be what we honor him as in our own devotion to the Sacred Heart. Jesus had a heart open to those who were suffering. The English word sympathy means to suffer with, and that's how Jesus revealed himself during his public life. He was sent, as he says in today's Gospel, to bring good news of the kingdom of God to people. but not just telling them about the kingdom, but at a stage in its development to bring them the kingdom itself. And many of the incidents in his public life, he is underlying his interest and his support of family life. And that's what we see in this initial stage of his public ministry. He has just called Peter to be the rock on which he would build his community. And Peter was in Capernaum at that time, living there, and he brought Jesus to his house, not only to show his hospitality to this great, powerful, charismatic preacher, but because he wanted Jesus to heal his mother-in-law. And we see the effect, the peace-bringing, the sympathetic peace-bringing of Jesus to the family of Peter. St. Luke tells us when he entered the house, he was told that this woman had a severe fever. And they asked him, Jesus, to heal her. And so he went to the bed and he raised her. He told the fever, get out of this woman. And to show the effect of Jesus' healing, St. Luke tells us that this generous, hospitable woman got up immediately from her sickbed and was so completely healed that she could begin to wait on this important guest who had healed her. And then we learn that the reputation of Jesus spread throughout the whole area, and people who were desperate because their relatives were sick and they had no other way of healing them, they brought them to Jesus. And then Jesus poured himself out in healing. St. Luke underlies this personal sympathy when he tells us that Jesus laid hands on them all. Of course, we learn even from the Gospel of St. John that Jesus could heal from a distance, and he did not need to touch each one, but to show his personal concern, his sacred heart, he touched each one and cured them personally. So Jesus was showing us in his public ministry what he tells us and shows us in the celebration of the sacred liturgy of the sacrament of Holy Eucharist. Jesus doesn't come to us just as an assembly, as a group. He comes in Holy Communion to each one of us because he loves each one of us with all his heart. He's continuing in the church's ministry, his public ministry. He's coming to us as the Eucharistic, sympathetic peace bringer.